Alright, I have plenty of videos I've recorded and haven't uploaded. Here's another one. Maybe I'll upload them all. Alright, this is just a personal one. It's not about anything great or big, but I had a couple more memories that I wanted to talk about because they keep coming back. I keep thinking that I remembered everything, but then, as you think about things that you've already remembered, the subconscious will apparently, to my shock and surprise, eventually deliver other memories that were connected to that one. And sometimes it seems like the delay between remembering memories and then secondary memories that connect to that one, and then as it goes, gets longer and longer. So at the beginning, when I first remembered something, I'd remember something related to that the same day or the next day or within a couple of days, and then it slowly became like a week. And then I used to think after about a week, okay, I've remembered everything, but then it'd be 2 weeks, and then a month, and even to this very day, years into it, I still am recovering memories that I'm 100% sure of. They aren't like, perhaps memories. They're not, I'm not sitting on the fence, except for certain ones I am. Certain ones I think that I remember, but I'm not sure because I don't remember the detail to really ground me in the sense that, if I remember something that happened and then my mother talking about it, well, that really, or other people discussing it, then that kind of solidifies the truth. But if it was just me who experienced it in my head, well, I can't really be sure, so I'm not really. But this one I'm sure of. Okay, what I remember now, and what I think explains a lot, is that when I was taken to a child psychologist by the recommendation of the school, apparently, obviously it was not on my parents' own, it wasn't my parents who brought me of their own motivation because they didn't give a crap about me. And the matter of fact, the psychologist said I should go on Ritalin, and my mother, as soon as we got out of the office, said, no child of mine is going to go on medication. Okay, I remember that the psychiatrist actually, he asked me a lot about a lot of things, but he definitely asked me a lot about my father. And I remember specifically telling him that I did not like my father. And when he asked why, I told him, well, he would come in my bed and bug me. And, I still didn't, at the time I didn't know what he was doing. I wasn't sure. I just knew that it was very uncomfortable that this total stranger, because I really didn't know my father, would appear at 10 at night or 11 at night and crawl into my bed and try to hug me, basically, from behind. And I remember now that my brother reminded me, him getting hard and like trying to put it between my legs. And that's when I would push him away. I had no idea what was going on. I had no idea it was a sexual thing. I just didn't like the fact that I was being enveloped. I was getting hot. And who is this thing? I didn't know what it was. Now I know it was a psychopath. So, what I think happened, alright, is that the courts, I think what happened, this part I don't know because I'm just setting things up, is that my brother came out that he was being molested. The courts or the school or someone was going to give some kind of leniency to my father, and my mother probably covered and said it only happened once, or it didn't really happen, or they bribed my brother telling him he was going to be a doctor, and this is why they were teaching him about the body. And then somehow it was recommended that I went to a psychiatrist to see if he was doing it to me too, and if it was a serious problem of my father's. And when I spoke about my father coming into my bed, that solidified it. And that's why my father from that day on kind of disappeared. He apparently went overseas on business. But no, now I found out through internet research that he was just downtown, where I am right now. And that's why my parents never wanted me to move downtown. They would always fight. It was strange. They would fight for me not to move downtown, then they moved out of the city, then they didn't care, and now it all makes sense. My father never slept in my house. I had no idea. I thought they were sleeping together, but I know how many times I would come home at 16 and 17 at 3 in the morning and scared to death that my parents would wake up and catch me coming in, much later than I told them I'd be home. And they never came out and caught me. And now I know why. Now I know why I was getting away with murder, because I had no father there. Good thing I didn't know, because and maybe that's why they didn't tell. Maybe that's why my mother kept my father around, because she knew she couldn't control two boys. We were both kind of wild. And my father had programmed us against my mother. Not that I really fell for it, and I don't think my brother did either, but he did a lot to damage to our relationship with our mother. And unless he knew damn well what she was all about, and he was trying to warn us, I don't know. I'm more of the opinion now that my father was the narcissistic psychopath, and my mom was just a total sociopath. Because at the end of the day, she just manipulated everybody. It was all her game, She played people like a chessboard. And my father was more like, he was overt, he was outgoing, he seemed to have more emotions, he was very affectionate. I mean, it might have a sexual overtone, but, today I am very physically affectionate with women, and it has to be because of my father, I mean, I don't know. And something else. I think I recalled my mother projecting onto one of my friend's fathers an incident in which apparently he put his hand on a young girl's leg, on the bus. Sorry. And today I'm thinking, it may be true, but that might have been my mother. Knowing how many times my mother tested me now. How does this go? Whatever. I think basically that was my father putting his hand on a young boy's leg. And if that's what he's guilty of, well, it's not so bad, I don't know what kind of a predator he is. I don't understand pedophilia still. What I kind of weigh between is like, do they do it out of like attraction, or do they feel like young kids themselves and they feel like this is for me, or are they predators that want to destroy something that they feel destroyed in themselves, or are there two different kinds? The preliminary research I did, because I did spend a couple of weeks just on that topic, was that there really are two different kind of pedophiles. There's a psychopathic one, and there's the non-psychopathic one. There's molesters and there's rapists. Anyways, let's go get out of there. So I think what happened after that is that because I told the psychiatrist my father was coming into my bed and bothering me, well, that blew my parents' cover. That ruined their life, because at that point my father would not be allowed staying around us. And I was the cause, because they already convinced my brother, the golden child, right? That's why he became their golden child, because he was talked into basically lying to the police or whoever, or at least minimizing and accepting as payoff that he become a doctor. I mean, that doctor thing may have been set even before he was born. It's very possible, because my uncle is a heart surgeon, and as we know that my grandmother of this side of the family, my father's side, wanted everyone to be very successful, so it may have been. I was born, by the way, my mother slipped this out to keep my brother company. I'm wondering if that's when maybe they found my father taking advantage of my brother when he was a toddler. And decided they better get someone to or else it's going to be just my brother being a victim. I'm not sure. I remember something else. One of the stories that I was told over and over and over again when I was a kid was that I once urinated in my father's face as a baby. He'll never forget that. Well, let me tell you something. I don't want to think about what he was doing to me when that happened. Maybe it's just in my imagination. I hope so. I'll never remember that far back. I hope. I remember before that, but only when I was born. I don't remember my father or my mother when I was really 1 or 2. I remember myself in 3-6 months, whatever that was, but only that one moment when I came to consciousness. Anyways, So from that moment on, what my mother was doing, she was using. First of all, they were both angry at me, right? They had me just to keep my brother company, and then I ruined their whole cover. And now my mother cannot have her alibi. She was using my father to cover for her lesbianism, and my dad was using my mother to cover for his homosexuality, and they were able to be hang around with other couples. And I remember that when I was very young, they had other couples. My friends' parents, my brother's friends' parents, they would hang out as if they were all couples. And I ruined that by telling the psychiatrist in grade 2 or grade 3, I think it was grade 2, I confirmed basically what the suspicion was, that my father was molesting both of us and he was a pedophile. So then what my mother has been doing ever since was sabotaging my success for 2 reasons. Or 3 reasons. One, because she wanted to seek revenge for what I had done. 2, because she told her side of the family that the reason why my father was not around because he was having trouble with me. Yeah, he was, but wasn't having trouble with me. I was giving him trouble, and he could no longer be with me, and he could no longer be with the family. So yeah, I guess that kind of makes sense. Neil was giving him trouble. And the third reason why she was doing it was to get my father back. Because she knew that I was a tough guy, and I did not like him. And she probably knew why I didn't like him, because she saw me since I was an infant develop, so I'm sure she saw the change in my personality. And she knew that I was always very suspicious of his character and never liked him. I didn't know the word psychopath, but I mean he's more narcissistic, I think, than my mother, but he's also more psychopathic, I think. But my mother, I don't know. I don't want to talk about it. They're the same bloody disorder in so many ways. The only real difference I can see is that my mother would never try to molest a boy or a girl because she would be ashamed to be caught, and my father, as a psychopath, just couldn't hold back, I suppose, right? Now, I don't think my mother has those tendencies, but I'm just saying that she would really cover her tracks, and my father probably just did it there on the bus. He did it to his son. I mean, how unlikely are you going to get away with that for the rest of your life? I mean, just ridiculous. So I was being used as a weapon. I was weaponized. Because what I see now is my mother would sabotage me. And then I would come crying to her because I didn't know she was doing it. And she would send me over to my father. And my father would just sabotage our relationship by yelling at me in the morning, or being cruel to me, or making the business ideas I had not work, or just discounting them. I had a business, we were bringing in sales of $1,000 a day online after about 2 weeks, and he made an excuse. And that's when I knew something was up, because what kind of guy is going to give up $1 million business potential within, basically we could have been there within a year. So he just didn't want any part of his son's life, you see. He wanted both of us out of his life. That's why he sent my brother over to St. Louis, and my brother found out his girlfriend, or ex-girlfriend, was a lesbian, and he called my parents for support. And he quit his job. He had PTSD, basically. Now I know. And he asked for some help, and instead of them giving him help, my father sent him to St. Louis to work for a friend, quote unquote. When my brother got there in a suit and tie with PTSD, desperate for a little, life force, the man was shocked to see my brother. He said, "Oh, who are you?" And my brother was like, I'm so-and-so's son. He's like, "Oh yeah, you mentioned that in a phone call." He goes, "Well, go stay in the hotel a few days and I'll figure out what to do with you." Like, there was no job lined up. There was nothing. It was just like my dad sent him over. My dad just wanted to get rid of us. My mother hinted many times that he just had no interest in family, and she would project it onto all men. She would say men can just walk away from their family, but it's different for a woman. It's different for a mother. It's not different for a mother, as I saw. She was only holding on to us because she needed us to cover. Because if she walked away from us and my brother and I started to talk, then I would let out the secret. And then she would be outed as a lesbian who married a pedophile. and who stayed with him, and God and the cocaine, God knows what else my brother would have told me besides the molestation. Okay, well, that's really all I wanted to say, because it's amazing how things are still coming back. I remember the psychiatrist sitting down and talking to me, and I remember him focusing on my father, and I remember I was about 7 years old, I remember thinking to myself, I wasn't shocked. At that age, you're almost always surprised at everything, right? The world is new. But I remember him asking me more than a few questions about my father, and I remember thinking, why is my father not here? Why did my mother bring me? If this is a family, if this is a serious issue, because my father spoke about it. Anyways, my father spoke about it because he was trying to set me up. But as soon as I went, he wasn't allowed there. And that was the moment that I really never... Our relationship at that point was completely cracked, broken. He would blame me. He would point at me. And, when I would see him sometimes, he'd go, we're not friends. I had no idea what he was talking about. It's heavy. I'm writing this book, and I swear I'm getting triggered all the time. It is hard. Wow. But I need to get this thing out, because if this story sits inside me the rest of my life, it's gonna make me explode. All right. I don't know why I told you all that, but I guess it's just to say that memories keep coming back. If you think hard enough about things that you've unrepressed, think about those events when you go to sleep, because that's usually when I do it. You could wake up with you will. Because think about it. Everything that happened to you, thousands of things branched off from that event. So if you remember one event from years ago, an isolated event, by definition, you're forgetting or thousands of other ones. I'm sure there's lots more I still will remember, I will. I'm not going to stop thinking about this, for the rest of my life, I think, because it's really eye-opening. I forgot about that. The psychiatrist, and I went more than once. I'm going to tell you something else that I just recalled at this moment. Wasn't once, because I remember the first time I played his computer. It was 1977, and he had sneakers. Now it's coming back. He had sneakers. I played it, and then I knew that I went. Now I remember that it was more than once, because I wanted to play again, and I got to play again. I could contact that psychiatrist as an adult and try to access my file, but I'm scared to do so, just like I'm scared to call Mexico and access my father's file. And I'm scared to contact the bank, because where my parents bank, because they have a life insurance division, and my parents asked me to sign a whole bunch of papers before my brother died, and they wouldn't let me see what I was signing. They said it was about my inheritance. But this was before my brother died, and my brother said he never signed it. So it's either inheritance that they decided my brother wasn't going to get because he was already wealthy and married. He became wealthy because they inherited money. So it was a surprise for all. Maybe my mom decided at that point there wasn't much money left, and she was going to leave it all to me because she'd been sabotaging me my whole life. Or just as likely that my parents were in trouble for money. They disliked me forever. I was a huge threat to their secret. When they died, my brother would have told me. I would have found out, their boyfriends and girlfriends, their whole secret would have been laid to bear. I would have gone through their personal belongings. So I think there was a good chance that I had signed a life insurance policy, and they were going to get one of their boyfriends or girlfriends, probably their boyfriends, drug dealers, to kill me. Because when I was working for my father in the last couple of days before my brother died, which I only did to get to know my father because my mother had sabotaged me out of it. No, that was before my job. Okay, that was that was it. My mother had sabotaged me out of the job. And I said, all right, you know what? I'll go work for my father. You've been asking me for 30 years. I may as well go see what he's got. Then he had nothing. That's when I realized it was a big scam. I caught them by surprise. So when I entered my father's office, it was empty. But he had a back room that was huge. It must have been 3,000 square feet, empty. And I think he was living there, but pulled out the furniture when I said I'd work for him. But he said that he was going to show me something there next week. I have a feeling, because I know that his boyfriend was sleeping out back in a car. I think he was going to bring me out in that room, and his boyfriend was going to kill me. Something was going to happen. They were going to push something onto me and squash me with a freezer, because my father's in frozen seafood. It's not really in it, but that's his, his front. Who knows? Who knows? It is not beyond him or my mother whatsoever, now that I know what they've done to my brother and I. So, with that, I bid you adieu for now.